Hello and welcome to the 2 Dice Uphill Sevens League. This is a project I've been working on now for about 9 months. We're in September already, heavens above. Yeah, it's a Sevens League that I have put together to run on Twitch, my Twitch channel twitch.tv/MrHuman, but there will be videos such as this one and replays of the games uploaded to this channel as well. Just so that way there's a more permanent record of them existing. So what we're going to be looking at in today's video is we're going to run through each of the teams, what you can do as a viewer to get involved if you want to, and just some rules changes that I'm implementing for this season, because there are aspects of the 7 rules published by Games Workshop that I want to change just to make it a little bit more interesting. So in total we have 6 teams. We have Dwarves, Chaos Renegades, Vampires, Wood Elves, Khorne, and Snotlings. Even though I know the teams off the top of my head, I still needed prompting just to double check that I didn't list any twice. So we'll run through each of the teams and player names if they have them, and this is the first way that you can get involved, is naming of players. So if you follow my channel, you have the ability to earn channel points, or they're called $300 Earthican bills on my channel because the channel is rather Futurama themed. So if you want to, you can head over, give the channel a follow, watch me while I'm live, and you can save up your channel points and then spend them on player names if you wanted to, as well as some random sound effects also that I have set up for the games as well. So let's go through the first team now, the Beautiful Robot Daughters. They are a dwarf team with 2 blitzers, 1 runner, and 4 dwarf blocker linemen. There are no rerolls on the team, with 70k spare in the kitty. They are saving up to get a death roller, because as the team name would indicate, if you are someone who is aware, the death roller is the Crushinator. So that's where the team is at this point. The team has been fully named. We have the 2 blitzers, Linda Ann and Linda Ann 2. So Linda Ann 001, Linda Ann 002, representing robot names and serial numbers. The dwarf runner is Francine 001, and then the 4 linemen are Lulu Bell 1 through 4. The next team we will have a look at is the Chaos Renegade team, the Chaos Rodegades. They feature all 3 big guys you can get into a starting roster. 1 Minotaur, 1 Ogre, and because you have the 3 big guys, you must take the Renegade Goblin as your last positional. They also have 3 Renegade linemen. There's only 1 player on this team that has been named at this point. It is the Troll named Foolish Monk. This was actually a redeem by someone on the channel, so this is the only player on this team that's been named because someone redeemed it, and all these players will remain open for everyone else to name as you watch. The next team we will move on to is the Council of Counts, the Vampire team. On this team, they have 2 Vampire Blitzers and 6 Thrall Linemen. This team has been entirely named because I really like the naming convention that I have for my actual team. The team itself is Punga Miniatures and is not Games Workshop because I quite dislike the old Vampire team from Games Workshop. So we have Count Von Count and Countess Celine as the 2 vampires, and then the 6 Thralls, Breakfast, Second Breakfast, Luncheon, Afternoon Tea, Dinner, and then finally we have the Cabbage Caboose. The next team we have is the Lorenthal Dragonfire, the Wood Elf team. They have 1 War Dancer, 1 Thrower, 1 Catcher, and 4 Wood Elf linemen. One thing to mention, I guess, as well with the Vampire team, because I did forget, they also have a reroll available to them. But this team only has 1 named player. The War Dancer is named Fingers Slippyfoot. Everyone else on the team is available for naming. The next team we have is the Khorne team, the Northern Murder Hobos. The team features 1 Bloodspawn named Punch and Judy, 2 Bloodseekers named Chopper and Stabby, 1 Corngore, which I have misspelt, and 3 Marauder linemen who are all currently unnamed, as well as the Corngore. And then the final team is my Snotling team, the Spore Squad. They feature 2 trolls, Her and Der, the bandwagon of fans, the Pump Wagon, 1 stilty runner named Styx, and then 7 Snotlings, Grandpa Snot, Krusty, Kite, Dr. Shrooms, The Pick, Vuvu, and Leather Sock. The team comes in with enough spare to also have a reroll of its own as well. So that's a fairly big win for that team, coming in with a maximum, and will probably have enough to get some inducements as well thanks to their low player cost. So we'll go back to the review of all the teams and we'll discuss the changes we've made, and then we'll discuss the draw. So there are a few changes I've made. The first one is injuries. So injuries are changing because I dislike the way that 7s in the Games Workshop printed rules run their injuries. I don't want players to be out for a game, missing in the next game, and then out permanently. That's not. I kind of find that a little bit too easy to get serious injuries. So we're going to use the full 11s rules. So on a 10, 11 or 12, or 9, 10, 11, 12 if you're a stunty player, you then suffer an injury, and then if it's a 10 plus, you can then roll to see what happens to that player on the D16, and then apply the relevant result. The next thing I'm also changing is the way skill ups work. So in standard 7s rules, at the end of each game, you may roll for a random primary or a random secondary skill for a player, and you have to roll to see if that player gets hired by a team in a full 11s league. I'm making some slight adjustments based on the tier of the team, just to make it a little bit more interesting, and because I like picking skills rather than just randomly selecting skills, because it means that if, say, the Wood Elves, who are already a tier 1 team, all of a sudden get some really good skills on their rolls, and everybody else rolls really badly, then they sort of already increase the gap that they have. That's not to say that that's necessarily going to happen, but I don't want randomness to determine how well teams may perform. So the way it will happen is a method I have stolen from the Bonehead podcast. If you do not follow them on YouTube already, please go and check them out. They are a much more established and more comprehensive channel than this one. This is just a bit of fun that I'm doing, whereas they are definitely far more serious about this than I am. So depending upon the tier, you may also choose a skill. If you are a tier 1 team, you may choose a primary skill after your first game, a primary skill after your second game, and then a secondary skill after your third game. So primary, secondary. If you are a tier 2 team, you alternate each week between primary and secondary. And then primary, secondary, and then primary, secondary again. If you are a tier 3 team, you get a secondary, then a primary. So inverse of the tier 1 team. Just adds a little bit more interesting builds, and allows a little bit more choice, but you still can roll the randoms if you want. So if you playing a tier 1 team and you want to really select a secondary skill on someone, you can roll for it, and the cost will be added accordingly. So the costs will remain the same from standard 11s: 10k for a random rolled primary, 20k for a random rolled secondary or a selected primary, and then 40k for a selected secondary. Also as well, with the skills, players will not be rolled for to see if they leave and join an 11s team. That will happen at the end of the season. So you can stack all the skills you want on one player, but the more you stack, the more likely they are to leave your team at the end of the season and not come back. Which is fine if you're playing one of the teams that may get ejected anyway. The plan will be, at the end of the season, at minimum, the top 2 teams will remain for the following season. But either the bottom 4 or bottom 2, I haven't quite decided yet, but some manner of teams will have the ability to get rotated out for fresh ones. And that will go to subscribers of my Twitch channel in the first instance, and then cascade down based on how desperate I get to get people's opinions on teams. The last thing we'll go through before we wrap up this video is the draw. So the first stream will be on Sunday, the first Sunday of October at 1:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. if you're interested in watching along. And it is going to feature the Chaos Renegade team versus the Vampire team. The second game in the stream will be, when it switches over, the Khorne team versus the Dwarves. So both games will be streamed simultaneously on the Twitch channel, but then will be edited and then uploaded to YouTube, just because there's a lot more work for me to do in editing those videos. But I will go through the full draw just so everybody has it available to them. So the first game, the final game of the first round, is the Snotlings up against the Wood Elves. And then for the second round, we start with Dwarves v Snotlings. And then the Wood Elves v the Renegades. And then the Vampires v the Khorne team. Then we have the Wood Elves for round 3. We have the Wood Elves versus the Dwarves, the Snotlings versus the Vampires, and the Renegades versus the Khorne team. For this particular round, I do also want to use one of the special rule options they have in Death Zone, or potential other resources, to just add a bit of variation to the league. So whether it's referees, or random events, or the special balls, or stadiums, I will open that to a fairly broad vote, and then people can cast their votes, and we'll implement one of those rules accordingly. For round 4, we have the Khorne team against the Snotlings, we have the Vampires against the Wood Elves, the Dwarves against the Chaos Renegades. And then for the final round, we have the Wood Elves against the Khorne, we have the Renegades against the Snotlings, and the final game will be Dwarves versus Vampires. And then from there, we will filter out a top 4. We'll have team that finishes in first playing the team that finishes in fourth, and then second versus third. And then there will be a grand final between the two teams that come out on top in that finals match. And I think that's about everything. So a link to my Twitch channel is in the description if you want to check it out. If not, that's totally fine. You can catch them all here. They'll be uploaded hopefully every one, in the week in between, once a week in between each game, so, or each stream I should say. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, enjoy your day.